My name is Tamara Oborn, and I am the moderator for tonight. Just a quick bias disclosure, I have worked with Jen, and I'm listed as an educator supporter on her website, but this is a PTA event. The PTA does not endorse either candidate, they're neutral. We just want people to be informed, to know what they're voting for, and we love it that you're participating. That's the best tonight. So thank you for being here. Really big thanks to our candidates. I have a whole soapbox about how difficult it is to run for office. It's scary and it's hard, and you put yourself out there. You open yourself up to a whole bunch of criticism. So we really appreciate both of you and your willingness to do this. Thank you so much for being here and being willing to help us create a whole new school district. That's what we got to do. So we're going to get to know them. Here are the format for tonight. We did a random drawing. Jen will give an introduction first. John will give his introduction second. At the end of the Q&A session, John will give his conclusion first, and then Jen will give her conclusion second based on our drawing. We have the questions that were submitted randomly in a cup, right there, in that blue cup. And I'm just going to draw them out at random. Either candidate knows which question is coming, and we'll take turns who goes first and second in answering those questions. Each candidate will have 2 minutes to introduce themselves, 2 minutes to answer the questions, and then 2 minutes in the conclusion section. So just 2 minutes across the board, okay? Shannon is our timer, Nicole is running our camera. Due to time limits, we may not be able to address every question, but candidates are going to be available for you to talk to afterwards. Time expires at 8 p.m. I will not ask any additional questions after 7:55. So if you're watching the time, that'll help you know where we're at. And I think that's all of the business items. So let's get started. Let's make sure that microphone's working. It is? Okay. Let's get our timer ready, and Jen, you'll be the first to go.
Okay, so Shannon, you're gonna hold it up with 30 seconds left?
Yeah.
Okay, perfect. Okay, hi, my name is Jen Lyman. I am running for school board, obviously. That's why you guys are all here for seat 2. I am a mother of 5 children, 3 of whom who have graduated from Pleasant Grove High School here. I have a junior that is attending here and an 8th grader at Oak Canyon. I have been involved in our schools since my youngest was probably in first or second grade. I was roped into helping with the carnival, and I did that and then learned the value of PTA. I became involved more in PTA as a treasurer was mostly my gig. I loved dealing with the numbers and the money and helping our presidents stay on task with their budgets and come up with programs and run programs that supplemented and enriched the education of our students in our schools here. I then started working, I ran for the SCC at Valley View Elementary, and I served on the SCC there for while my children attended. And that is a very wonderful program. The state has funding that is generated from trust lands, and each school is allotted a certain amount of money. I'm sorry, alarm. And we administer that. So there's a school community council that's made up of parents and teachers and the administrator, and we allocate those funds to help that school reach its goals. And so I helped with that, and then I was asked by Mark Clement to serve on the district community council, and I served on the district community council from 2018 to 2024. That gave me an opportunity to see how the district runs, learn more about district planning and the processes of the district. I also currently serve as the treasurer of Choose Kindness Pleasant Grove. So that's me.
Hi, my name is John Gadd. I am a longtime resident of Pleasant Grove, living right over the border from Lindon. My wife and I bought our home here 25 years ago, and we've raised our 6 kids here, and we just love this community and can't imagine living anywhere else. My background is I've been an attorney for the last 20 years. Most of that time I practiced as a patent attorney. For about 10 years of that time, I was a partner in a law firm, and as a partner, I was co-owner of the business and spent a lot of time hiring employees, training employees, managing a budget that was in the tens of millions of dollars, making critical business decisions to grow our business. So my background is in law and business. One of the things I think that our school boards need more of is people who have a business background, because really the school board's job is to run the business of the school district. They don't teach students, that's what the teachers do. They run the business, and it's really important that we have some business perspectives on the school board. We have a lot of teachers on school boards and PTA people on school boards, and those are valuable perspectives, but we really need some business people on the school board. The reason we do is because the school board's budget is in the hundreds of millions of dollars, and that money needs to be spent wisely so that the teachers get paid, and so that the buildings get maintained, and so that we have everything that's needed for the teachers in the classroom to do a great job teaching the students. I look forward to this debate, and I really want to get into some issues about lowering taxes and making sure that we cut wasteful spending. Thank you.
Thank you for those introductions. I have chosen the first question from here on out. We'll just swap. So, John, you'll answer this question first, and then Jen, and then the next question back and forth, so you guys are prepared. There has been talk of closing Lindon Elementary for years. There's been schools in the area already that have had to be closed. How should the board balance community concerns, enrollment trends, and facility needs when deciding on school closures or boundary adjustments?
So I'm not a fan of closing schools, especially small walkable neighborhood schools. Now we have a huge problem in our district, and it's going to keep going with current trends, and that is that we have declining enrollment. This is a chart from the schools in our district over the last 8 years, and you can't see the numbers, but we lose 300 some odd students every year in the schools in these 4 cities. And so it's a big problem. So what do we do about it? Well, some school board candidates and members think that the solution is to close schools when we have declining enrollment. And my opponent's on record saying that if a school doesn't have 3 to 4 classes per grade, for example, in an elementary school, that we should close that school and consolidate it to what I call a big box school, where you bus the kids several miles from home to get to that big box school. My solution is, let's not build a brand new district office building. We don't need one. What lots of school districts do, really successful school districts, is they use the empty classrooms in schools with declining enrollment to use as office space for district employees. So let's put the superintendent and the business administrator and the administrators that work in the school district, let's have them use office space in these small walkable schools, and let's keep those schools open. Because it's really important to have walkable neighborhood schools. It's a lot easier for kids to get to school, get home from school when they don't have to jump on a bus. Sometimes you have to have a bus. But these small walkable neighborhood schools are a fixture of our community. They're a gathering place. They're great for students. They're great for families. And students all over America and all over Utah go to small schools with 1 or 2 classes per grade, and they do fine and they get a great education. So I don't think we should close Lindon Elementary. I think that we should put district employees in Lindon Elementary and keep Lindon Elementary open.
Okay, yeah, I think first of all, what we need to do is a massive boundary adjustment. We need to do a boundary study. It's called, they've been putting it off through Alpine School District for a while. It's called the mother of all boundary studies. We really need to figure out where our students are, where they're going to be, and make sure we have sufficient and efficient schools for each of our students. Alpine School District uses it's not even a program. The culture at Alpine School District is professional learning communities. And these communities allow teachers to collaborate together. That is the research that has shown that having 3 to 4 classes per grade really helps with that collaboration between teachers. And so and it's also efficient. It's using the most of our tax dollars that we have. We have schools, we can have more specialty teachers when you have more students in a school. I'm not talking about a massive 1,000 student school. I'm talking about 500 to 600 students that allows you to have specialty teachers, PE teachers, music teachers, reading specialists, that can be afforded when you have that many students. I have experience with school closures. I was a parent at Valley View Elementary when it was slated for closure. I was part of a group that led the charge to not close Valley View. We did a lot of research. We came out at database with numbers, and we showed the district that really they did need to look at some other things besides just Valley View, and they went away for a little bit. Then they came back and they had a plan. The first plan was that we were going to be split into 3 different schools, and the new plan had us moving en masse to Central, being able to maintain some of our traditions and stuff as we went. And so I was on board with that, and I did my best as a PTA and SDC member to facilitate an easy transition from Valley View to Central.
Okay, thank you. Next question. The Alpine Board of Education currently live streams its meetings on YouTube. Would you support continuing this practice in the new school district, or are there other methods you would recommend for keeping the community informed?
Yes, and I want the sound to be better. I try to watch them, and I can't hear what's happening. So I'm grateful that they stream those. I know that there's a lot of invested parents that want to know what's happening, and maybe they can't watch it, even they can't watch it in lifetime. When it's on YouTube, you can go back and watch it at a later time. And so I really appreciate that. It's helped me be a little bit more in the know when I don't have time. I have to run soccer carpool or other things that are happening. I can't always make it to those meetings, and so I'm grateful for that. I think we have an opportunity with our new district to do a better job with communication and public relations, letting our community know, our stakeholders. That's not just parents. I think parents get a lot of the information about what's happening at our schools through newsletters and such from their principals. I think we have an opportunity to share more information about what's happening in our schools with the entire community. And I think that will be such a benefit for the community and also for the schools. When we have people that know what's happening, they're not driving by a school and wondering what's going on at the high school. They can be in the know. So I think that's something that we can focus on with our new district and an improvement we can make.
I do support the live streaming of school board meetings. I think that's a great way for people at home to keep up with what the school board is up to. But the question kind of touches on a larger topic, which is transparency with the school board. And that's one of the concerns that I have with our current school board, the current Alpine School Board. Utah has some really great laws for citizens. One's called GRAMA, it's the Public Records Law, and another is called OPMA, which is the Open and Public Meetings Act. And the current Alpine School Board violates those laws all the time. If you've ever, as a parent or as a person, a concerned citizen, or as a voter or as a person in the school district, tried to get public records from Alpine School District, it's very, very difficult. And one of the tactics that they use is they charge huge fees. So they'll say, yeah, we'll give you those emails, but we're gonna charge you. I have a bill for one of the requests I sent in that I think was $30,000. We'll give you those records as soon as you give us $30,000 for our time to gather those records. So they charge big fees and they don't hand over the records, so they're not very transparent. Another thing, the Open and Public Meetings Act is a law that says, hey, if you're a school board, you have to do your meetings open to the public. The public gets to come and watch your meetings. So anytime you meet, anytime a majority of you get together and meet, you have to do that in a public meeting. Well, what does the Alpine School District do? I've seen in the records that I have gotten, they'll have 3 of the school board members meet 1 hour, then the next hour they'll have the other 3 meet to get around the Open and Public Meetings Act. So if I'm elected to the school board, we'll be much more, I'll demand, I'll insist, and I'll call the news when they don't do it, that we keep the laws, that we obey the open records laws, and we obey the Open and Public Meetings Act, because it's super important for transparency.
Okay, thank you. Next question, and if either of you want me to repeat these questions, just ask. I can't even remember which question I asked them, so I don't know how you do it. School board members serve multiple groups: students, parents, teachers, and taxpayers. How should these groups be prioritized, especially when their interests conflict?
Who's first?
You first.
Oh. So obviously students are the top priority. the school district exists to make sure that students get a great education. So that's got to be the top priority, no question. But all of those groups are important. Families are important, parents are important, taxpayers are important, teachers and staff are important. And and really, if you want to do a good job for students, you've got to make sure that you're taking care of those other groups, because the teachers teach the students and the parents take care of the students and the taxpayers pay the taxes that fund the students. One of the things that I've seen with the current school board, I've owned my home for 25 years, so I've been paying taxes to Alpine School District for 25 years. They've raised our taxes, our property taxes, 12 times in the last 8 years, way faster than the rate of inflation. 12 times in 8 years. That's 1.5 times every year they've raised our taxes. I have the chart here. Here's the chart. That's way too much. They tax us way too much. So one group in that group that I don't think is being thought enough about is the taxpayer. It's really, really difficult for struggling families to pay those taxes. It's difficult for seniors on fixed Social Security income to pay those taxes. It's really difficult for people with disabilities who live on a fixed disability income to pay those taxes. They tax us way too much and way too often. And the reason they do that is because they waste a whole bunch of money. And I don't have time to get into it in this question, hopefully I'll get into it later, but I have several ideas on how the school district can spend less money and not keep raising our taxes 1.5 times every year. And at the end of the day, that will help the students. If we spend the money better, students will be better off. They'll get a better education. Their teachers can afford to have a house in our district, and the school district will do better.
Can you repeat the question?
Yep. School board members serve multiple groups: students, parents, teachers, and taxpayers. How should these groups be prioritized, especially when their interests conflict?
Okay, as John, I believe that students are first. As you said, that's why we're in the business of education, is to make sure that our students get a good education. I think next would be our teachers. They are the frontline workers. They are the ones on the boots on the ground with our kids day in and day out. They need the support and the resources that they need to provide that good education. Those resources come in a variety of ways. One of those is our administrative staff and the district staff. My husband is an educator. He has been with Alpine School District for the last 27 years, and he's a counselor. And he was grateful for some district staff that were able to come and help this last week. We had a tragedy happen at his school. And so I don't think the public sees how much administration has to deal with and how much good that they do. Everything that they're doing is trickling down to the students. It might not be directly involved with the student, but the support that they give to teachers is valuable. So I would say employees, and that includes all employees. Parents, of course, they're the reason we're in this business, right? If we didn't have parents, we wouldn't have any students. So parents are valuable resources, and I want to increase communication and involvement with parents in our education. I think that there's become this us versus them mentality, teachers versus parents, and I would like to flip that and have us be a team, have parents and teachers work together. And of course our taxpayers, that's ultimately who is hiring us to be on a board. It's important that we utilize our resources to the best of our ability, and we need to be mindful of those sacred funds that are given to us by the taxpayers.
Okay. The next question. Have you started writing interview questions for the superintendent and business administrator applicants, as the new school board is in charge of hiring those people? Name the one question you would like to ask each applicant.
Ooh, that's a good question. No, I don't have a list of questions for our new superintendent. I do know that that's something that we want to do right away. That's going to be item number one on our list of what we need to do. I think the most important question we have for a superintendent is what culture do you want for our school district? What direction do you want it to go? The superintendent is going to be steering the ship, so to speak, for our district for a very, well, most superintendent contracts are for 2 years, so at least for 2 years there. And with this, we're starting off, this is gonna be even more vital. He's not taking over from another superintendent that has set the course, so to speak. He or she is going to be setting the course for our new district. And so I think that's what I would want to ask them. What do you see our district, how do you see our district moving forward to educate our students so that they can reach their best potential?
So obviously the superintendent, that's one of the jobs of the school board, is to hire the superintendent. And so very important role. And he or she has a huge impact on the school district. So as far as what questions I would ask the potential candidate for superintendent is I would want to see what their vision is for the new school district, and I would want to understand what their management style is, because ultimately they're not teaching students, they're managing employees in the school district. One of the problems that we have in the current school district is we have a very bloated bureaucracy with very bloated compensation. So this is off the state auditor's website. These are the 118 people who last year in Alpine School District made over $200,000 in compensation. 118 administrators in Alpine School District made over $200,000 in compensation. The highest was the superintendent. He made $366,736 in compensation. And there was a whole bunch of sub-superintendents underneath him. So one of the things is, I want to know what your management style is, and do you think we can get by with less than 118 administrators who make over $200,000? Is there any way that we could cut that bloated bureaucracy and those bloated salaries and push that money down where it matters most, into the teaching? Can we push that down into the teachers in the classroom? Because I feel like when we have 118 administrators who make over $200,000, students are missing out. Students aren't getting as good an education as they could because all this money is being spent at the district offices on this huge bloated bureaucracy. Let's push the money where it matters most, down into the classroom, down to great teachers, and let's make sure kids get a good education.
Thank you. Next question. What do you believe makes an effective school board team, and how should individual board members contribute to that success?
So an effective school board is a school board that doesn't just rubber stamp what the bureaucracy tells them to do. That's another concern that I've had with Alpine School District. When I've been to lots of school board meetings, I've read lots of minutes, I've watched lots of school board meetings. And most of the time, 99-point-something% of the time, it's unanimous votes without any discussion, just rubber stamping exactly what the bureaucrats ask them to do. Spend what the bureaucrats ask them to spend, hire who the bureaucrats ask them to hire. And the school board just isn't doing enough to be the governing board of the school district. An effective school board governs. They're elected by the people. They represent the people. They represent all of us. And their job is to make sure that they know what's going on and that they make decisions. When a school board is just rubber stamping what the bureaucracy is telling them to do, I don't feel like they're doing their jobs. We need school board members who have principles and then vote based on those principles. We need school board members who are honest and who are hardworking. We desperately need school board members who have a business background, who've had to make payroll, who've had to hire people, who've had to manage people. We desperately need school board members who are good with finances. Because unfortunately, what we've had for so many years in our current school board is we've only had one perspective. We've had educators and PTA moms and dads. We haven't had business people. And as a result, we've been spending money like drunken sailors. We're just not being efficient with the money that the taxpayers have given us. And as a result, kids aren't getting as good of an education as they could. That's what we need in the school board. Thanks.
Okay, this is something I'm pretty passionate about. I want us to come together as a school board and be willing to collaborate together. We need to set some norms that will monitor, or not monitor, but maybe like a constitution that's going to set how we're going to run as a board, and that we can self-police, that we are doing what is appropriate in our positions. I want a school board that is going to look at the district as a whole and not look only at their areas. Of course, we need to be intimately aware of what is going on in the schools in the areas that we represent, but I want us to come together and make decisions that will benefit every student in our district, not just the ones in our area. We need to be respectful of each other. We also need to message as a board. This means that communication, even if we go into we have a debate or we don't agree on an issue, when it is the will of the board, even if it's a 4-3 vote, that is how we need to message when we are speaking as a member of the board. That means that even if we disagree, we might have to say, this is the will of the board, and go forward and support that decision. That is our responsibility as a board, and it will help with I think the way that our board will work. It will function better. We will be united in messaging. Of course, I can talk to my friends and say, you know, I didn't really agree with that vote, and this is why. But when we're speaking publicly and as a member of the board, we need to be united in the progress, the direction that we're going.
Okay, during the transition phase, how will you keep all decisions student focused?
Yeah, that's going to be hard because we're setting so much groundwork at the beginning. We're not taking on the education of students until July of 2027. But I think all 14 of us that are running for the school board in this area are focused on students. I haven't heard anybody say, no, I don't think the students are our focus. I think as we are hiring a superintendent, we will be able to find someone that is focused, has experience in education, and is focused on doing the best for our students. There's going to be some hard things that we're going to have to do during this transition in negotiating with the other districts. And I think ultimately, if we keep in mind that we are trying to do the best for our stakeholders and the best for our employees and the best for our students, that we will be able to make those decisions and keep them student focused. There's going to be, I think those negotiations with the other districts are where it's going to get a little tricky, because they are also looking out for their students as well in the West and in the Central. So I think that's something we need to keep in mind. Yes, we need to be strong and firm in our positions as we advocate for the students in our area, but also keep in mind that ultimately the goal of public education is to educate every student in the entire state. So we need to keep that in mind.
So I think one of the ways that the school board can focus on the students is making sure that of the huge hundreds of millions of dollars that the school board receives, that we make sure that most of that, as much as possible of that, gets pushed down to the teachers in the classroom and the teaching resources where the actual teaching of the students is happening. Because the students are going to be better off if most of the funding goes to teaching students instead of to all these other things. So I've already talked about how there's a lot of bloated bureaucracy, and we need to cut that back as much as we can so that more of that money flows down to the classroom. Another way that we can save money in the school district is in the way that we build and maintain our schools. So if you drive around the school district, we used to build schools for a lot less than we do now, and it's because schools are built with 3-story glass entryways and 3-story atriums. And when you drive by, the school looks like a crystal palace. And the question I have that I don't think this current school board ever asks itself is, are those students getting a better education because we spent more money on that school? I went to K through 12 education in 1-story schools, And I never once said, oh man, I could get a better education if I just had a 3-story glass entryway. I never said that because the school building never taught me anything. It was my great teachers who taught me. And so why are we taking money and wasting it on these extravagant school buildings when we could have perfectly safe and functional and great schools for teachers to teach in, and push all of that money we're wasting on the school building and push it down into the classroom? The students would be so much better off. And so that's how we can focus on students. Another thing that we can do is not tear down perfectly good schools just to rebuild them bigger and more Crystal Palacey. If we can use that money and push it down to students, the students will be a lot better off too.
Oh, thanks you guys. Sorry. So I pulled out a question about superintendent oversight, and because we have a little bit of time, I'm going to skip that one for now. I thought it might be redundant, just full disclosure. So the other question I pulled was, you and your fellow board members are attending Day on the Hill for school board members, so that's up at the Capitol, where you get to advocate with our legislators. What do you think will be the most effective thing to do to advocate for our new school district with the legislators?
So I think there's sometimes not a great relationship between school board members and legislators. So I think one of the most effective things that the new school board can do is make sure that they have good, open, honest relationships with legislators. Some legislators I've talked to feel like school board members are not completely honest with them, and they have a hidden agenda, and they try to use trickery. There's all kinds of problems with the relationship between current school board members and the legislature. I think what the legislators need is honest, straightforward school board members who aren't trying to pull a fast one on them. There's been a lot of situations, if you're familiar at all with Alpine School District, where the school board has been literally, laws have been passed to stop what Alpine School District is doing. Laws have been targeted at Alpine School District because of what the school board is doing. So we need to have a lot better working relationship with the legislature than the current school board has. That would be my answer.
Okay, my time at the Capitol, I would spend advocating for more funding for education. Utah is 48th in the nation on per pupil funding for students. I would advocate that would come more from income tax and less from property tax. Every time the legislature decreases our income tax rate, the districts have to offset by increasing property taxes, because guess what? The cost of building, especially construction, and a lot of other things that school districts have to buy, our prices aren't going down. So I don't love property taxes. They are a regressive tax. They impact those who are on fixed incomes in a more drastic way than an income tax would. Income tax is tax on someone's income, so it is not a regressive tax. So I would advocate for more funding for education from the income tax. I would also mention the thought of maybe looking at impact fees again. Our legislature back in the 90s took away the opportunity for districts to charge an impact fee on new development. And that's really been really challenging for Alpine School District with all the growth that we've had out west. They can't charge those developers that are making tons of money developing that land out there. They can't charge anything to help build the schools that have been needed to be built for those students out there. And also, I would encourage them, if we have an opportunity to have a day at the Capitol, could we please have an opportunity for our legislators to come down and spend time in our schools? I would encourage all of our legislators to spend a day substituting at one of our schools, or even just coming, visiting with teachers at lunch, and seeing what is actually happening in the school. They have such a major impact on our funding. I think it makes sense for them to spend time in our schools.
Next question. Recently, ASD, the Alpine School District, posted a graphic about the feeder schools. Among the many issues facing the new district, what priorities should feeder school pattern patterns be for the new school board and superintendent?
Okay, I don't think this is a priority, but I think it is something that will be an opportunity that we have as we do that MOAB, the mother of all boundary studies, and try to fix boundaries. We have some boundaries that are really weird, and there's been grandfathering of certain neighborhoods, and then development continues, and that neighborhood is now going to another school. So I would like our boundaries to just make sense. I also want to take into consideration busing when we do the boundaries, so we can maximize and be more efficient with the use of our busing. And so as we're doing this boundary study, and we can hopefully fix the feeder situation. It's hard. My daughter went to Central Elementary, and that divided between Oak Canyon and PG Junior. I think it's about 50-50. And then she gets to Oak Canyon, and Oak Canyon splits. Half of them go to Timpanogos, and half of them go to PG. Every parent in our district has an opportunity to send a student wherever they want. So that's not going to impact that. As long as there's room in a school, a parent can take their child to whatever school they want, even outside of district. There's some hoops you have to jump through, but it's possible. But then the school is not required to bus. So I think that that's a way we can be more efficient if we clean up our busing so that it makes sense for the area, that we have these schools that are more locally centered, so those students don't have to be bused as far. And then cleaning up those feeders, it would help with so much with vertical collaboration. That means 12th grade high schools can collaborate with elementary schools. There's a lot of issues that they have similar. Our multi-language learners and our special education and ALL, there's a lot of things that it would be so helpful to be able to collaborate from elementary to junior high to high school and back the other way.
I think Jen did a good job. We agree on that completely. Here's something here's something we disagree about, and it's big outside money in local school board races. So I'm holding up Jen's campaign finance form that she filed right before the primary. And I've highlighted on here, most candidates in the primary of the school board races spent less than $1,000. Jen spent over $6,000. But the reason she was able to do that is because she got an outside donation from Guy Fugel, the mayor of Pleasant Grove. He gave her $3,000. That's 3 times as much as most people spend on their whole primary campaign. Guy Fugel doesn't live in our voting district. Guy Fugel is the mayor of Pleasant Grove, and he's running for school board in the 1st district. Why would he give $3,000 to a candidate in the next district over? Another donation that I've highlighted here is $1,000 from the Governing Group PAC. The Governing Group PAC is a political action committee based in Davis County. Why are they sending $1,000 to Jen in our local school board race? Where does the Governing PAC get their money? They just got a $100,000 donation from a PAC in Delaware that is named America Leads Super PAC. It was a PAC that was funded to help Chris Christie win election in 2016 and 2024. Why is a Delaware corporate, a super PAC, sending money to a PAC in Utah that's sending money to our local school board race? So I think outside money has a big corrupting influence on local school board races. I'm not accepting any outside donations. I'm not accepting any donations. I'm just paying for a modest school board run on my own, but I don't think that we should have school board members who are funded by outside money. The people on our school board should represent the people who live in our district, not the people who are sending the money from outside our district.
Okay, and the laws that govern those are legislative laws, so that would be a great thing to have for the legislature. Okay, the next question is, do you support continuing the current retirement benefits, including the early retirement package for employees in the new school district?
So the pay and benefits are generally guaranteed to continue for at least 1 year for the new school, for the teachers in the schools. After the district splits in 1.5 years. So there's not really a question of whether you want to continue those benefits. The law says you have to. we absolutely need to compensate teachers fairly. We absolutely need to have the best and the brightest teachers and keep the best and the brightest teachers. And we already have great teachers in our schools. And the law guarantees that they keep their job when the school splits. So the question it kind of assumes things that aren't reality. We keep all the teachers, they're guaranteed their same pay and benefits for an initial period after the school district starts. The job of the school board is to make sure that we keep those teachers happy and run the business well so that they always get their paychecks on time and so that they get those pay and benefits and so that they're able to be compensated fairly. As I already said, we don't push enough of the money down to the teachers. We don't push enough of the money down to the classroom. We spend too much of the money at the district office and on vanity projects with the school board. The interesting thing about our school district is we're going to have declining enrollment. Like I've already said, we've had huge declining enrollment. But the property tax money that we get for our area is the same every year. It actually grows a little bit with all the new growth. So if we have the same pile of money for property tax and fewer students, that means we could spend more money per student every year. And so the school district's going to have hundreds of millions of dollars. They're going to have plenty of money to do a great job as long as the school board spends the money wisely.
Actually, the early retirement incentive is not guaranteed because it's a program, I believe. It's not a benefit, and it's entered into by the board, and it could change at any time. But I am a proponent of keeping that. It is a way that we can attract the best and brightest educators to our district. It is something that is unique, I think. I don't know if there's any other districts that do it, but it's pretty unique to Alpine School District. And the thing is that it allows older teachers to, and it's supposedly it's revenue and cost neutral as far as you are retiring, you're having an early retirement, and so for that employee, we stop paying their rate, and then we hire a newer employee, which doesn't make as much as a teacher who's been teaching for 30 years. Something that is great about Alpine School District is that they really value experience and education. And so along with keeping the early retirement incentive, I would also like us to keep the same lane and step compensation ladder for our employees that really it pays to get more education, get more training, and the more experience you have, the more money you make. So for both of those things, I would love to make it work. I know that there's some money that the Alpine School District currently has. I don't know if it's tied up already for liabilities that they have accrued with past retirees, but that is something we need to dive into and see how we can make it work.
Okay, next question. Full disclosure, I love this next question as the mother of a 7th grader who does not yet have a cell phone but just got handed a Chromebook. I have feelings, but here's your question. Given concerns about the distractions presented by both cell phones and Chromebooks, what technology policies should the new district adopt, and how should research on screen time and student distraction shape those policies?
Well, I'm grateful for the cell phone policy. I believe it was SB 178 that banned or just asked for no cell phones during class time. So it has been interesting to see how different schools, even just in our small area here, have handled this differently. I don't know what's happened at Pleasant Grove Junior. I know here they request that the students put their phones in a caddy at the front of the school, at the front of the classroom at the beginning of class time, and then they can get it. So they have it during passing periods. At Oak Canyon Junior High, they've got yonder pouches, which they put their phones in there. You've probably seen them on the news, and those are magnetized. And some of the kids think they're pulling one over if they don't lock their yonder pouch, but guess what? They're not pulling them out of their backpacks. They're not being seen, because as soon as they're seen, they are taken, and a parent gets a call. With the Chromebooks, I love that we have focused on technology. We've been very progressive as a district. Sometimes I worry maybe we've gone a little too far. So if we are able to move our high schools to a 9-12 configuration, I think I would advocate to not have a 1-to-1 configuration in our junior high schools for 7th and 8th graders, and then they would receive a Chromebook in 9th grade when they enter the high school. It would be logistically difficult to do that at a junior high that's 7th, 8th, and 9th because there are so many classes that overlap with 7th, 8th, and 9th graders. But I think if we can make that configuration work, I wouldn't be opposed. Although I have talked to some teachers that say that makes it harder. It takes a lot of class time when they have to log out and log back in and with a classroom set. But I think that's something that we could look at, and I would be very interested in a lot of our parents' input on that.
So as was mentioned, there's state laws that govern cell phone use in the classroom, and I really trust the individual schools and the school principals and the administrators in the school, as well as the teachers, to get together and decide what's the best policy for their school. It's really not the school board's role to set a district-wide policy. I think that the schools do a good job of managing that on their own. But what the school board's job is to do is run the business of the school district. And it's important that we do a better job than they've been doing. They raised our taxes 12 times in the last 8 years. This last time in August, when they raised our taxes for the 12th time in eight years, my opponent posted on her Facebook page that she's, quote, grateful, unquote, for this latest increase to our property taxes. I'm not grateful for the increases to our property taxes that are way faster than inflation. She's also stated online in question and answer that she's open to raising our property taxes if she's elected. She's open to doing bonding for schools, which is one of the ways that the school district raises our taxes. They take out debt in our name, which is called a bond, and then through higher property taxes, we get to pay that debt off for the next 10 or 15 or 20 years. I'm not open to tax increases. Like I said, the school district's job is to run the business, and we have plenty of money, and we're gonna have more money per student every year because we have declining enrollment. And because of that, it really is not necessary to raise our taxes. I will never vote for a tax increase. Never, never. I'm not open to more tax increases. I think we've been taxed to death, and the people in our area are suffering. It's not okay that the American dream is slipping away drip by drip with all of these taxes. We can do a great job for our students with the money that we already have if the school board just spends the money wisely.
Okay, next question. If elected, how will you address potential conflicts of interest, including any personal business ties? And what accountability measures would you put into place to ensure transparency in awarding public contracts?
So this is a huge issue for me. It's so important that we don't have biased money going out the door from the school board. I would have a strict nepotism policy. I wouldn't allow a school board member to be on the school board and simultaneously have a close family member who's employed by the school board, because the school board member is naturally going to feel like they need to do what's best interest of their family member, as opposed to maybe what's in the best interest of the entire school district. I think we should have that nepotism policy. We have that problem right now. We have a school board member whose husband is a teacher, and her votes are always to do what's in his best interest. Well, that's great, but what about everybody else's best interest? We should have a nepotism policy. We should also have very, very, very careful controls on big contracts with big contractors building schools and maintaining schools and all of those sorts of things. I think too often we see the same contractors getting contracts, and I'm not sure that we're getting the best value for our money. Regular, normal businesses do this kind of thing all the time. They have audits, they have nepotism policies, they have contracting policies. We have school boards that are run by educators and PTA people, and they just don't have the experience with business to see all of the conflicts of interest that are happening with the hundreds of millions of dollars that they're sending out the door every year. So it's really important that we get more business people on the school board so that we can avoid some of these conflicts of interest.
I think we need to follow whatever is in law and policy from the state as far as how to handle those contracts. There should be a strict, I think if we have this with PTA, even though they're not huge amounts, but you have to be a fiduciary. So of your PTA. So that means when you are doing anything, even if your business is quoting to be able to help with the carnival, you need to have your fiduciary responsibility needs to be the PTA. And I would say that anybody that's working on a school board, that their fiduciary responsibility should be to the school district. And so they need to look out for the school district first and foremost, and not use their power or position to further their own personal interests.
Okay, what specific policies or supports should the new school board consider to address teacher burnout and ensure long-term retention?
Okay, I think first of all, we need to, there's so many things. Okay, first of all, we need to be an advocate for education in all that we do. We need to advocate for our teachers to the public. As a board, we need to encourage our public and the parents to work together with our teachers instead of, as I said, there tends to be an adversarial relationship with teacher versus parent. I would love for that to turn more into a partnership. I would encourage parents to reach out to teachers before problems happen. So you establish a relationship with your child's teacher at the beginning of the school year. That will ease the way for any problems later on down the road. I think we need to make sure we're compensating our teachers sufficiently. I think having an administration that has experience and has been there in the teacher's shoes is very helpful. They're able to support those teachers and give them what they need. I would love to see this, to have more mental health advocates or professionals in our schools. Right, currently the Alpine School District has a half a counselor per elementary school, and I think if we had, I know Central Elementary used their SCC money to pay for the other half of the counselor, and so she is there full time, and that has been valuable at that school to have her there all the time. That helps with behavior issues. She can address those initially. She can get out ahead of them, and that helps our teachers so much and helps with burnout. And having more social workers at our secondary can also help. I think a lot of the burnout is teachers being treated poorly, and so those things can help.
So I think teachers need to feel like they're appreciated and the work that they do is appreciated. I think that it's demoralizing for teachers when they see all of these administrators with huge bloated salaries, and they're in the trenches teaching students all day long, and they wonder what those people over at the district office even do, because they never see them and they never benefit from the work that they do, or very rarely. So I think that if we cut down on administrative overhead, teachers would be happier. Between 2017 and 2013, the school board voted to raise their own salary multiple times. They quadrupled their salary. So the school board voted to quadruple their own pay, and their benefits went up by way more than four times. I think when they see that kind of thing, it's demoralizing. The school board meets twice a month in an evening meeting after their day jobs. School teachers are there all the time, so it's demoralizing when they see more of the money siphoned off to pay for school board salaries and administrator salaries. I think that teachers, if you ask them, they would much rather have more money in their classrooms for the resources that they need to teach than have money spent on extravagant school buildings. And I think teachers who teach in our small neighborhood schools would like to see their schools open. In the last 4 years, 3 schools have been closed in our area, in our new school district area, while 4 new schools, extravagant $175 million for a single high school buildings, those types of buildings are being built elsewhere. I think when teachers see that, when they see their little neighborhood school closed, and they see extravagant schools being built elsewhere, they think, am I really a priority? Is my work appreciated? So I think the school board, as the runners of the school, as the business of the school district, can do a lot better job making sure that teachers have the resources they need to teach.
Okay, it has come to my attention that that clock is wrong, and it is 7:56. So that was the last question that we asked. You'll each have 2 minutes for a conclusion. If there's any other questions or concerns by our audience members, feel free to talk with them. They'll be at the booths for at least a little while after we're done here. We will, based on our drawing, we will have John go first with his 2-minute conclusion, and then Jen will go second with her 2-minute conclusion.
Thanks for coming tonight, and thanks for the people who watched this video online. So I think what you have in the selection is a clear choice on several issues. Some things Jen and I agree on completely, but some things we differ on. And one of those is whether or not there should be big outside money poured into this race. $3,000, Jen accepted $3,000 from the mayor of Pleasant Grove, who does not live in our voting district, for her school board campaign. She also accepted $1,000 from a PAC that's based in Davis County, who is funded by a super PAC that's based in Delaware that was set up to help Chris Christie win against President Trump. Do we really want money from outside of our school district, from outside of our voting district, to be flowing in? And it's just human nature that when someone's done you a huge favor to the tune of $3,000 or $1,000, that you owe them a favor. Do we really want our school board member beholden to people who live outside our district? Or do we want a school board member who's going to represent the people who live in our district instead of representing outside interests? Another issue that we differ on is closing schools. Jen's on record saying if you don't have 3 or 4 classes in each grade, that school needs to be consolidated, it needs to be closed. I disagree. We have these great schools like Lindon Elementary and other elementary schools that have been there for a long time. The teachers are happy, the students are happy, the families are happy. Let's keep those schools open. And the way we do that is we use the unused space to house district administrators instead of building a brand new expensive school district building. And the third issue is taxes. I will never vote to raise your taxes. Jen is on record saying she's open to tax increases in the form of bonds to build schools and maintain schools. I'm not open to that. She's on record saying she's grateful for the last time that the school board raised our taxes. I'm not grateful. We have plenty of money. We can do a great job for these students and for the teachers and for the families and for the taxpayers. We don't need to continually raise our taxes. Thank you.
Thank you everybody for coming out tonight, and I'm grateful for the opportunity I've had to meet with a lot of constituents as I went through the primary and now through this general election. Yeah, I'm grateful for the PTA for putting this on. They've had to do this twice, and they had 2 seats, and it's been a little bit of an ordeal for them. I'm grateful for their taking their time. I want to tell you that I have, as well as a wealth of experience in our schools. I've been in our schools regularly. I know many educators, I know many administrators, and they've all asked me to run because of the way that I have advocated for education. I want the best education for every single student in our area. When we were part of ASD, what we currently are, I want the best education for every student across our district. And I will do my best to advocate here on our board to get the best education for every single one of our students. I will advocate at the state I have relationships with legislators and others up at the state that I can advocate for education, for good education, for more funding for education. Yeah, no, I don't love property taxes, but if it's a necessity for our students to get the best education, for our teachers to have the resources that they need, I will never say never as far as tax increases. I think that we are 48th in the nation in education funding. 48th. I mean, I'm not asking that we be number 1, but if we could come up to 45, that would be great to have a little bit more money that we can spend for our students. And I am grateful for each of you taking your time out to come tonight. Any questions about anything that was mentioned here tonight, I'm happy to answer.
Okay, let's give them a round of applause, please. by November 4th. Okay, that's the deadline. I know if it's a mail-in, it has to be sent in the day before, and if it's that day.
No, it needs to be received
by the election. Yeah.
Good thing.
Couple days.
Good thing we're not
Use a
charged.
Dropbox, save postage.
Happy day for everyone. Use a Dropbox. Oh, if you mail it, it has to be received by the 4th. You can Dropbox it.
The date, yeah.
The date. Thank you. The closest ballot box, by the way, is at the Lindon and Pleasant Grove City offices. Those will be open starting October 10th. The Lindon Community Center and Pleasant Grove Public Safety Building will also be voting centers if you'd like to vote in person on election day from 7 a.m. to 8 p.m. So if we didn't get to your question, be sure to stop by, tell your neighbors, tell your friends. We love that you're here and you're engaged. You should all give yourselves a hand as well for coming out tonight. And everyone travel home safely.